Hey guys, my name is AJ. I'm a youth pastor and a graduate student at Liberty University. And each week I release a couple videos talking about how I study the Bible and how I teach the Bible. Hope you enjoy this. Today we're going to be talking about how to give a devotion. Now this is something I do a couple times a month, whether I'm teaching children's church or we have a weekly volleyball class, and I give devotions. And I love giving devotions, but it's something that I realize not everyone is exceptionally good at. A lot of times we'll ask people to teach who aren't necessarily, as the Bible would describe, apt to teach. So if that's you, I hope this helps you to be better at giving devotions. A couple of points to get into. Whenever I'm teaching a devotion, first and foremost, I try to keep it short. We've all been part of those devotions, maybe a prayer meeting where someone decides that it's their time to just charge hell with the squirt gun, and they preach for 45 minutes, an hour, and you're like, that wasn't what I was looking for this morning. There's a time for that. I love good, strong preaching, but generally a devotion isn't the time for that. So whenever I'm giving a devotion, my goal is 15 minutes. I think that usually, like I said, I'm doing it on Monday night or I'm teaching children, and they don't have a huge attention span. On Monday night, we're playing volleyball. People want to get back to playing the game. During children's church, the kids want to get, they only have a 15-minute attention span anyway. The oldest one's like 5 years old. So what do I do whenever I want to teach a devotion? Well, the first thing is I want to select my passage. We want to start with the Word of God. We want to study the Word of God. We want to pick something. If you're in a pinch, you want to pick something that you're pretty comfortable with, a passage that you've studied before. So I read the passage. Second thing I do is I give the meaning of that passage. Third thing I do is I give an application for the passage, and then finally I use an illustration to kind of bring that point home. And I'm pretty consistent about this. This is how I go through teaching a devotion. So for tonight, I'm teaching on 1 Corinthians 10, verse 13. That's my passage. So I'd read the passage, 1 Corinthians 10, verse 13. There hath no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with the temptation also make a way of escape, that ye may be able to bear it. Simple passage, real familiar here. And what I start off with this is I say, we all struggle with times of being tempted to sin. Sin is appealing. No one sins in a way that doesn't seem like a good idea at the time. So I start off, I say, God gives us a promise here. It says, but will with the temptation. So it gives us a promise. One, we will be tempted. And then secondly, that there will be a way of escape with that temptation. So we have the passage, then we go into the meaning. What does that mean? Well, we focus on temptation first. We are tempted to sin. We are drawn to sin. We want to sin. Our flesh has a desire to sin. I'll take a few moments here. I'll emphasize, you know what your besetting sin is. You know the sin that you struggle with. If you've been a Christian long, you can pretty well figure out what it is for you. Maybe it's anger, maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's drugs, maybe it's lust, maybe it's impatience, whatever it is. And I really try to emphasize that it really doesn't matter what your sin is. If you're tempted to do it, then you need to recognize that this passage is for that. And you need to identify that. If you don't know what it is, we can talk a little bit more one-on-one. I can help you. I can give you, maybe you don't know what sin is, so we can emphasize that. But we say, okay, so we know what temptation is. And then the second part of this meaning is when temptation comes, a way of escape comes with it. It's kind of like a buy one, get one free. You get temptation, you also get a way of escape. So what's the application here? You need to recognize when you're being tempted, when you recognize that you want to sin, when you recognize that I'm headed down a bad path, I'm headed in a direction, where is the way of escape? As soon as you recognize, if something doesn't change, I'm going to end up in sin. I've put myself in a situation with my boyfriend or girlfriend that I shouldn't be in. I'm at a party I shouldn't be at. I'm in traffic and I'm recognizing that I'm going to get angry. Whatever it is, you need to recognize, I'm on this path. I am headed towards sin and I don't want to sin. So how am I going to not sin? Well, I need to start looking for that way of escape that God has provided for me. Where is it? And being sensitive to that, because you're not promised multiple. You are promised a way of escape. Now, sometimes God will allow you to go kicking and screaming into your sin. You want to sin. You are going to get there, and God's going to try and offer you as many ways of escape as possible, and you're dead set on it. Well, that's not who I'm talking to here. I'm talking to people who want to live a holy life, who desire to live a life of holiness, to not continue in sin. That's our application, is to look for those ways of escape and then to take it when you get it. Now my illustration. There's a lot of these. One of my favorite ones is whenever a kid wants to touch something on the stove. You know, the kid honestly wants to touch that stove. They really want to. We've all seen the toddler who's like reaching for it. They want to touch the stove. They want to get burned. Well, they don't want to get burned, but they want to touch it. And the parent says, don't touch that. Keep your hand away. Don't touch it. Why? Because you're going to get burned. The parent knows the consequences of what they're going to do. The child just knows that they want to do it. So God is the parent in this situation saying, I know the consequences. You don't want to do that. Stop it. Don't do that. And we're that child who desperately wants to sin. We desperately want to do this thing, not knowing what the consequences may be. Now, another illustration I like is, whenever I was in San Diego, California for a little while, I did not want to go to Mexico. And I remember I was driving to go see my parents' first apartment that they had moved into. We were all driving there. And I realized I didn't have my passport on me. I had a driver's license. I didn't have a passport. And I asked my dad, I said, what would happen if we missed our exit? And he goes, you would go to Mexico. And I said, well, I don't have a passport. They wouldn't let me in. And he goes, oh, they'll let you in. They just won't let you back into the United States. And I was like, oh no. And I saw a big yellow sign and it said last U.S. exit. My parents' apartment complex was right on the U.S. border, and and that was the exit we had to take to get to that apartment complex. And I was like, don't miss the exit. Take the exit. I don't want to go to Mexico. I think that's another effective illustration to use for this, to say, I don't want to end up in sin. I don't want to fall. I don't want to displease my Father. I don't want the consequences of sin. I want to be holy. So I'm going to be sure that I take that way of escape. I'm going to take that exit whenever I see it's there. And, they don't, like I said, it doesn't always come with big yellow banners that say, this is the way of escape. But if we're looking for it, God promises us that it'll be there. So I hope that this is a blessing to you. I hope you're able to teach this to others. If you didn't know this, let me know down in the comments. I want to invite you. I do a few videos each week helping to equip teachers to be more effective Bible teachers. I hope that this is a blessing to you. If you like this kind of content, I invite you to subscribe and like and subscribe all my videos. We're also doing on Saturday, or I do a Saturday night special. It's where I put out a lesson for the following Sunday where we're teaching through the book of 1 Samuel. And that's a commentary on the book of 1 Samuel. So you could go there and study the Word of God. I hope that it's a blessing to you guys. I hope that these are a challenge to you, that it equips you to be a better teacher. I hope you guys have a great day. God bless, and keep the faith.